Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
The hood release cable on this vehicle is located on the driver's side kick panel, right down on the side of where the gas release door is. It's down on the flat part. Pull and release. The safety latch is right above the H. Reach in there, tilt to the side, bring her up. Now you can put your hood rod in the location which is marked by an arrow. First step is to remove the power steering reservoir. Just disconnect it from the bracket and set it aside so that we have access to take the drive belt off, Serpentine drive belt. So that is on a bracket that slides in. So the lock tab has already been pushed off, and it gets rusted sometimes, so you have to work it back and forth and slide it up. Now you can move it over here. And remember not to disconnect any of the hoses. There's no need. And now to take the cert belt off, the tensioner is right here, and that is the head of it. And you're going to be using a 14mm wrench. The longer the wrench, the more leverage you can get. And you're going to slide that on. And you're going to go with the tension. So on this, you're going to go pull the wrench down clockwise. So I'm going to go to the right, take the tension off the spring so I can take the belt off. I'm going to reach my hand down, slide it off that power steering pulley. And the tension is going to pull the wrench back. That is one tight spot. Now I can pull the belt off the rest of the way. Get that out of the way. Okay. Now the next step, they say, is to remove the power steering pump. Now to remove the power steering pump, we're going to use a 12mm wrench. Get up here and break this top bolt free. Now we can move down to the secondary mounting bolt. So I'm going to use a 12mm socket with a short extension, and it's beyond the vision, so I can see it almost through the pulley. There we go. Okay, and now we're on. I'm going to break it free. I'm going to go ahead and move the upper bolt out the rest of the way using a ratchet wrench. Beautiful, finally. So now that the pump is dismounted, we're going to undo the bungee cord and see how much we can get this out of our way. I'm going to remove the AC bracket line right here, just so I can get a little more flex and accessibility to the power steering. Okay, let's see what we got here. You don't want to bend it too much. It is aluminum, it's going to give a little bit. But now that that's much better out of the way, we can really going to be able to see the cert belt tensioner that we're removing. I'm going to get my bungee cord again and move this out of the way. So the two mounting bolts for this serpentine belt tensioner one is here and the other one is located down in the back. You can barely see it with your eyes. I took a while looking at this to see how I was going to get to that back bolt, and it's not a normal practice to take a tensioner apart, meaning the actual pulley off of the tensioner, but in this case this is the way I think we're going to have to remove it and install it. So I'm putting a 14mm wrench on the bolt that attaches the pulley to the tension, and I'm going to break it free. Once that's broken free, I can just use my fingers, pull the bolt out. Now I can set that aside. So the mounting bolts on this are 12mm sockets, and there's 2 of them. And after quite a bit of mulling over, I've discovered my 1/4-inch set is what will fit in there the best. You can barely see it from the back there. And then you're going to break that free. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the front one before I take the back one all the way out. I can take the ratchet off and use the extension and socket probably by hand. Take that out, set it aside. Now I don't know at this point whether the back bolt and the front bolt are the same length or if one's shorter or longer, so I'm going to make sure I place it in order so I don't mix the two up. Slide my hand in the back there, find it, and just unbolt it. Okay, she's ready to come out. Let's compare and see if they are the same length. So that's the rear. I'm going to put that in the back side. I'm going to put that in the front. They are. So good. No confusion here. So there's 3 mounting bolts on this cert belt tensioner. You've got one here, one there. That's hard to see. You can only really see it with once you get your socket up in there. And then there's a center bolt here in the center hole of this tensioner. It's 12mm socket. See if I can get that by hand. I'll use a deep 12mm socket and see if I can get in there. Yeah. Let's see if that's enough. Okay, pull that socket out. Pull that bolt out. And that is longer than the other 2 mounting bolts. So I know that goes in the center, and those 2 are the outer edges. Now with all the bolts out of the way, you should be able to slide this right up. So here we have a 09 Honda CRV cert belt tensioner, the new one from 1aauto.com, and the factory one. They both have the same height, mounting, drilled hole for the power steering pump, and as you can see, both pulleys of the same diameter for the cert belt. Nice milled aluminum for a flush fit. So don't forget to get your parts at 1aauto.com. Okay. So now we're going to install the cert belt tensioner that we bought from 1aauto.com. And I'm going to mount the front mounting bolt and the center bolt, and then I have to take the pulley off to get that back bolt in. But I need it to be bolted in firmly in place in order to loosen that up. So we know that the center bolt was the longer bolt of the three. I'm going to put that in first. I'm going to start the front one. I'm going to use a nice little 1/4 inch setup to snug that down. Take that extension off. Now I don't want to really tighten these up yet because the back hole, you want this tensioner to move around a little before, so you can line that bolt up. So now I'm going to have to take this pulley off the tensioner in order to install that back bolt, and that's a 14mm head on that bolt. So I'm going to use my 1/4 inch ratchet, get in there, and I'm going to break that free. Take that off by hand. There's a nut in the back, so if you can put your finger down through here and assure that nut doesn't get pushed out, because obviously you're going to need that for insulation. I'm going to set this aside. Now I'm going to get the back mounting bolt. See if I can get my hand back in there and install it. And now I'm just going to come in at this angle. I can feel it, and it's right about there. Perfect. See if I can wiggle this around a little bit. Start the threads. I got it. It's really a tight spot. They don't let your fingers get in there. So as long as you get a couple turns with it and you feel comfortable, then you can go ahead and put your socket on and turn it in the rest by hand. So I got my 12mm 1/4 inch drive deep socket on there. I tighten that right up with my finger. I'm going to tighten the top one here. That's pretty snug. So is this one. So now I'm going to get ready to torque this down once I get this center bolt bottomed out, and this one. The torque on these mounting bolts is 16 foot-pounds. So I'm going to get a little 3/8 or maybe even a 1/4 inch torque wrench in there and torque those down to 16 foot-pounds. Okay, so 16 foot-pounds for these mounting bolts. Okay, let's hope we can fish it down in the back there. Get my arm out, maybe I can get some throw on it. That was it. Okay, I'm going to use a short socket to go inside here, 12mm. go. So now it's time to reinstall the pulley on that tensioner. So on the old tensioner, I'm going to show you how that mounting nut for this tensioner bolt, how it just goes through. It has a seat in the back. See, it has a cutout of a hex. And that's why I'm going to be bringing my hand down and holding it on the new tensioner, so when I start this bolt, it doesn't push it through and you don't lose it in the engine. So now with my hand down in there, I'm going to work the other one in. Okay, there we go. I can see now. There we go. Bring that up. Perfect. I'm holding the nut in the back and I can thread this bolt right in. And assure myself that that nut's not going to push out, drop into the engine. Okay, now the time to torque this, and the torque on this bolt is 43 foot-pounds. So I can't get a torque wrench in there. So I'm going to have to tighten this with a 1/4-inch ratchet. It's a 14mm socket, and it's 41 foot-pounds is the torque spec, so I'm going to really give it a good. And that should be good. I mean, I'm pushing on that tensioner on the spring, and I felt it move about a good 1/4 inch once it bottomed out, so I feel that's going to be plenty tight enough. So before I would install the power steering pump, I would get my cert belt diagram, look it up, and start my belt on the bottom pulley so I can see it clearly. Now I'm going to partially install the serpentine belt on the down below part by the crank and the water pump and the AC. So it's easy access at this point without the power steering pump installed. Okay. There we go. So just want to get it on the AC and the crank lined up properly. So there we go. I think I got it now. Yep. So that's going to go around. AC. I mean the alternator. Okay. So now I know I've got that pulled, lined up correctly. I'm just going to set that aside. Get my light out of there and install the power steering pump. So now with the belt on all the pulleys down below, lined up in the grooves, I'm going to reposition my power steering pump. And get my mounting bolts. So I'm going to mount the power steering pump. I'm going to put the top bolt in first. Snug that up by hand. There we go. I'm going to use my 1/4-inch ratchet with a 12mm socket. See if I can get it to start. Now I'm going to go down below and put the other bolt in, the bottom mounting bolt. This is a tight fit and hard to even see, but I'm going to come into this angle. Okay, I got it started. That's good. See if I can get my ratchet wrench down in there and start it. Tighten it up instead of a socket. The torque specs on the power steering mounting bolts is 16 foot-pounds. So I'm just going to snug them up, and then I'm going to grab my torque wrench. Now with both mounting bolts snug, I'm going to torque them in. That's 16 foot-pounds. Then I'm going to go to the top. There's a lot of problems with torque wrenches. Sometimes they don't fit in places. And let's see if I get my socket on first, if I can slide the torque wrench in enough. No, it's not going to fit in because the head of the pulley and the head of the torque wrench are too thick. So in that case, I'm going to tighten it, snug it right down. I'm going to use a 3/8 ratchet to make sure I get a good snug on it. So 16 foot-pounds is really not that tight, so a good quarter of a turn. That's guaranteed to be fine. Now we can install the belt. So now that I have my power steering pump mounted and torqued on the top of the engine, I took it to the liberty of raising the vehicle and taking down the passenger inner fender well splash guard so I can access the drive belt a lot easier. So I have my Serpentine belt tool, 14mm socket, up on the tensioner, and I'm going to push it clockwise and slide the belt on the crank. And let the tensioner back down and remove my tool. And now I'm going to just double check. You want to make sure it's in every groove and not overlapped on any pulley. Looks great. Now I can reinstall my passenger side splash guard and lower the vehicle. So now that I've lowered my vehicle and remounted the inner fender well shroud, rain shroud, I'm going to install the reservoir, and that's simply plastic guide. Clicks down in this lock. I'm going to line up my hose here, make sure that goes in place. Slide her down. That's in place, nothing's in the way, and now I can take my AC line, bring it back over, and remount that. And that was a 10mm head bolt with a nice big flat washer. There's no torque for this, it's just a bracket, so we're just gonna snug it right down. It's got a nice rubber bushing, and that's good. And now we're all set. We're done.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.